Most people think coding is for people who went to the best universities. They think it is for people who study computer science from childhood. They think it requires an expensive laptop, a fast internet connection, and years of formal education. But what if I told you that one of the most powerful skills in the world today can be learned for free? And what if I told you that the man who proved this to me was a 28-year-old night security guard who sat alone in an empty building every night from 11 p.m. until 6 in the morning? His name was Kenji, and 8 hours every night while the rest of Tokyo slept, he guarded an empty warehouse that nobody was trying to break into. This is his story. Before we begin, I want to ask you something. What time are you watching this right now? Where in the world are you from? Drop a comment below and tell me. And if stories like this one speak to you, please subscribe to Epic Mind Tales. A new story arrives every single week. Now, let us begin. In a small apartment in the Itagawa district of Tokyo, there lived a young man named Kenji Nakamura. Kenji was 28 years old. Every evening at 10:30 p.m., he put on his dark uniform, laced up his black shoes, and took the train to a large warehouse on the outskirts of the city. His job was simple. Sit at a small desk near the entrance, watch the security monitors, walk the building every 2 hours, make sure nothing happened, and nothing ever happened. 8 hours of silence, 8 hours of empty building, 8 hours of a man sitting alone at a small desk under a fluorescent light while the rest of the city slept. His salary was 185,000 yen per month. It was barely enough. His rent took most of it. His commuter rail pass took more. After food and utilities, he had almost nothing left. He lived in a 1K apartment so small that his futon touched the wall on 3 sides when he unrolled it at night, or rather in the morning, because Kenji slept during the day when the sun was out and worked at night when the city was dark. He felt, more than anything else, invisible. Not because people were cruel to him, not because anyone looked down on him deliberately, but because in a city of 14 million people, Kenji had come to believe that nobody would notice if he disappeared. He had finished high school but could not afford university. He had applied for 23 office jobs in 3 years. All 23 had required a university degree or experience he did not have. Every morning at 6 a.m. as he walked home from the warehouse through the waking city, he saw the same thing. Salarymen in suits heading toward the train station, convenience store clerks starting their morning shifts, delivery drivers loading their trucks. Everyone seemed to have somewhere to go that mattered. Kenji went home to sleep. That was his life. And he had, quietly, slowly, started to accept that it would always be his life until one cold November night, everything changed. It was 1:47 a.m. The warehouse was silent. Kenji was sitting at his small desk with nothing but the hum of the fluorescent light above him and the glow of the security monitors in front of him. He had already walked his 11 p.m. round. The 1 a.m. round was done. The next one was not until 3 a.m. He had nothing to do for 73 minutes. Usually he read manga on his phone. Sometimes he dozed. Sometimes he simply sat and thought about a version of his life that felt impossibly far away. But that night, by accident, he did something that would change everything. He had borrowed a phone charger from a colleague and plugged it into the USB port of the small desktop computer that sat at the security desk. He had never turned that computer on before. It was old and slow, but it worked. Almost without thinking, he typed something into the search bar. How do people learn the code for free? He pressed enter, and for the next 73 minutes, Kenji sat in an empty warehouse at 2 a.m. and read. He found a website that offered free programming courses. He found a YouTube channel that taught HTML and CSS for complete beginners. He found a Reddit thread where people were discussing how they had changed careers in 6 months by teaching themselves web development. 73 minutes turned into 4 hours. The 3 a.m. round never happened. Kenji sat in that empty warehouse until 5:55 a.m., 5 minutes before his shift ended, reading about something he had never once thought was possible for someone like him. When he walked home through the cold November streets that morning, something was different. For the first time in 3 years, Kenji was thinking about the future. He did not start the next night. He started 2 days later, on a Thursday, because he needed to think first. He needed to ask himself an honest question. Was this real? Or was this just another thing he would start and abandon after a week? Like the Japanese history podcast he had subscribed to last year and listened to exactly once. He sat in his small apartment on Thursday afternoon before his shift and made a decision. He would treat this like a job, not a hobby, not a side interest. A second job that he happened to work during the 8 hours. He was already being paid to sit in a building. He wrote one thing on a piece of paper and taped it to the wall above his folded futon. It said 1 hour every night, no matter what. That was the entire rule. Not 2 hours, not a full curriculum, not a certificate, not a goal to become a developer in 6 months. Just 1 hour every night, no matter what. And he began. The first week was humbling. Kenji opened a free beginner course on an online learning platform and stared at the screen for 40 minutes before he understood what a variable was. He typed his first line of code and got an error message. He typed it again. Another error. He spent 45 minutes trying to understand why a small bracket in the wrong place was breaking everything. At 3 a.m. in an empty warehouse, with no teacher to ask and no classmate to look at, Kenji sat with the frustration of feeling completely lost. But he did not close the laptop. He found the answer in a forum post from 2019. A small bracket, that was all. He typed it correctly. The code ran. He looked at the screen. A small line of text appeared that he had written himself. It said, "Hello world." It was the most basic output in the history of programming. Every beginner in the world writes it on their first day. But Kenji stared at it for a long time because he had made a computer say something. He had given a machine an instruction and it had followed it. That night, walking home at 6 a.m. through the gray Tokyo morning, Kenji smiled for the first time in a long time. Week 3, he understood variable. He understood loops. He was beginning to understand functions. He was still slow. He still got error messages constantly. He still spent more time debugging than writing. But he was learning, and he discovered something important about himself. He liked it. Not in an excited, jumping up and down way, but in the quiet, steady way that you like something that suits the shape of your mind. Coding felt like solving puzzles. And Kenji, who had always quietly loved logic and order, found that his brain moved comfortably inside the structure of code. The 1 hour rule became something different. He still set a timer for 1 hour, but most nights, when the timer rang, he did not stop. He kept going, sometimes for 2 hours, sometimes for 3, not because he forced himself, because he wanted to. Month 2, Kenji had completed a beginner HTML and CSS course. He had built his first web page. It was simple. It had a heading, some text, a colored background, and an image he had found for free online. He had built it himself from nothing, with code he had written, line by line. He saved a screenshot of it and set it as his phone wallpaper. His colleagues at the warehouse noticed something different about him. Tanaka-san, the other guard who overlapped with him for 30 minutes at the start of each shift, said one evening, "Nakamura, you seem different lately." What happened? Kenji thought about it for a second. Then he said, "I've been learning something." Tanaka-san asked. What? Kenji said, "Programming." Tanaka-san looked at him for a moment. Then he said, "That is good. Keep going." That was all. But it was enough. Month 3, Kenji discovered JavaScript. If HTML and CSS were the walls and paint of a house, JavaScript was the electricity. It made things move. It made things respond. It turned a static page into something alive, and it was significantly harder than what he had done before. For 2 full weeks, in month 3, Kenji felt like he was back at the beginning. He understood almost nothing. Every tutorial he followed produced errors he did not understand. He spent entire shifts reading documentation and forum posts and trying to understand concepts that felt completely foreign. This was the moment most people quit, not because they are lazy, but because the middle of learning something is genuinely uncomfortable. The beginning has novelty, the end has reward, but the middle is just difficulty, confusion, and the quiet voice that says, "Maybe this is not for you." Kenji heard that voice. He did not stop. He wrote in his small notebook, "Difficulty means I am learning. If it were easy, I would not be growing." He stuck the notebook to the desk at the warehouse and he kept going. Month 4. Something happened that month that Kenji had not expected. He was studying a free JavaScript tutorial at 2 a.m. when the old desktop computer at the warehouse froze. The fan had been making a strange noise for 3 weeks. That night, it stopped completely. The computer was dead. Kenji sat in the empty warehouse with nothing but his phone. He could have stopped for the night. It would have been completely reasonable. Instead, he opened his phone, connected to the warehouse Wi-Fi, and continued his JavaScript tutorial on a 6-inch phone screen, zooming in on code examples and typing notes into a memo app. He did this for the remaining 4 hours of his shift. When he got home that morning, he made a decision. He opened his bank account on his phone. His balance was 47,300 yen. After rent and food, he would have approximately 12,000 yen left for the rest of the month. He spent 11,000 of it on a refurbished laptop from a recycle shop near his apartment. It was 6 years old. The battery lasted 40 minutes without power. The keyboard had a sticky cakey, but it was his, and it could run code. Month 5. With his own laptop, Kenji moved faster. He finished the JavaScript Fundamentals course. He started a course on React, a popular tool used to build web applications. He also did something new that month. He created a profile on a freelance platform. He had no experience, no portfolio, no certifications, nothing to show except 3 small projects he had built himself during his shifts: a weather display page, a simple to-do list application, and a basic quiz app he had built from scratch. He uploaded all 3 to his profile. His first application for a freelance project was rejected, so was the second, and the third. On his 4th application, a small business owner from Osaka replied. The owner needed a simple landing page for his ramen restaurant. The budget was 8,000 yen. Kenji accepted immediately. He built the landing page over 3 nights in the warehouse. He revised it 4 times based on the client's feedback. At 4 a.m. on the 3rd night, the client sent a short message. It said, "This is perfect. Thank you." And then a payment notification appeared on Kenji's phone. 8,000 yen. He had earned money with code. Not a lot of money, but money he had made with a skill he had taught himself for free in 8-hour shifts in an empty warehouse. He sat at the small desk at 4 a.m. in that silent building and quietly allowed himself to feel something he had not felt in a very long time: pride. Month 6. Word moved slowly in the freelance world, but it moved. The ramen restaurant owner had left him a 5-star review. 2 new clients reached out based on that review. One needed a portfolio website. One needed a simple booking page for a small Kyoto guest house. Kenji built both. He earned 22,000 yen that month from freelance work. 22,000 yen was more than 10% of his security guard salary. He was earning extra money in the same hours. He was already being paid to be at the warehouse. He reinvested every yen of it into his learning. He paid for 1 month of an intermediate React course. He bought 2 technical books from a second-hand bookshop in Akihabara. He spent the rest on faster internet at his apartment so he could study more efficiently during the few daylight hours when he was awake. Month 8. Kenji had a portfolio of 7 projects. He had made 67,000 yen in total from freelance work over 6 months. And one morning in month 8, he received a message on LinkedIn, a professional networking platform. The message was from the founder of a small startup in Shibuya that was building a web application for restaurant inventory management. The message said, "We have reviewed your portfolio. We think you have strong fundamentals. We are looking for a junior front-end developer. The role is remote. The salary starts at 270,000 yen per month." Kenji read the message 4 times. 270,000. That was 85,000 yen more than he was earning at the warehouse. That was enough to move to a slightly larger apartment. Enough to save money for the first time in his adult life. Enough to stop counting every coin at the end of the month. He replied within 2 minutes. He was interviewed over video call 3 days later. He showed them his portfolio. He explained how he had learned. He answered their technical questions carefully and honestly, including the ones he did not fully know, where he said, "I am not certain of this yet, but here is my current understanding, and here is how I would approach finding the answer." The interviewer said, "That is exactly the kind of honesty we value." 1 week later, Kenji received the offer letter. He read it, standing in his small apartment, still in his security uniform from the shift he had just come home phone from. He accepted the offer by email, sitting on his futon at 7 a.m. 3 weeks later, he began his new job. He was no longer a night guard. He was a developer. My friend, Kenji's story is not just about coding. It is about you. It is about the hours you have that nobody is using. It is about the skills that are available for free that most people will never take seriously enough to actually learn. It is about what becomes possible when you take one small, consistent, unglamorous action every single night for 8 months. Here is the truth that changed Kenji's life, and it can change yours too. The most in-demand skills in the world today can be learned for free. You do not need a degree. You do not need expensive courses. You do not need a perfect laptop or fast internet or a quiet room. You need time. And you already have time, you just may not be using it yet. Here are the 3 things I want you to take from Kenji's story. First, choose one skill, not 10. 1. The most common mistake people make when they decide to change their life is that they try to learn everything at once. Kenji chose one skill. He went deep on it. He did not scatter his attention. He aimed at one target every single night until he hit it. Second, commit to 1 hour per day. Not 2, not 5. 1 hour per day. 5 days per week is 260 hours in a year. That is enough to learn almost any skill to a functional, employable level. The key is not how many hours. The key is that you show up every day. Consistency beats intensity every single time. Third, build something real as fast as possible. Do not spend 6 months only watching tutorials. Build something with what you learn, even if it is broken and simple and ugly. Because the moment you build something real, your brain understands the skill differently. Theory becomes practice. Learning becomes doing. And doing is what changes your life. So here is my challenge to you tonight before you sleep. I want you to open your phone and answer 3 questions. Question 1. What is one skill that could change your financial situation if you learned it this year? Question 2. When in your day do you have 1 hour that is currently being wasted on things that are not building your future? Question 3. What is the smallest, most concrete first step you could take tomorrow to begin? Write those 3 answers in the comments below. Say them out loud, because saying them makes them real, and accountability turns intention into action. You do not need better circumstances. You do not need more money. You do not need someone to give you permission. You need 1 hour and a decision. Kenji had 8 hours every night in an empty warehouse. You have at least one. What will you do with it? If this story gave you something real today, give it a like, share it with someone who needs to hear it, and subscribe to Epic Mind Tales. Every week I bring you a story like this one, a story about an ordinary person who made one decision that changed everything. Until next time, use your hours